I mean, great things are made of plastic. I like I said, I'm a big fan of the petroleum industry. If there's a little plastic in me, I appreciate that. I don't
Makes
care
me
about
last longer.
Microplastics to me are the new in like
lead or asbestos or all those other hokum made up nonsense.
No, okay, like lead and asbestos are a problem. Lead to a lesser extent. I'm not convinced.
Oh, is this like your actual belief?
Yeah.
You don't think it's a problem having microplastics in your
anyone who says not to eat lead just doesn't know how sweet it is.
Yeah. I think a little lead is no big deal, but I think you need to be
clearly.
I really don't think it's a big deal to get a little lead. But like spending your whole like, especially childhood, eating lead paint chips or being exposed to lead contaminated water because of your pipes.
Well, what about those generations of kids who grew up eating food almost entirely from packaging made of lead? Have you considered? Or wait, that's plastic, right?
Yeah, that's us. We're fine.
Yeah. You think it's all good? You think you think we're banging on all cylinders?
You know what? The best part about plastic is it's inert.
Cylinders.
It's inert. It doesn't do anything. I saw this on one of those
plastic
podcasts.
is not inert. It reacts with all kinds of things, and there's like a million kinds of plastic.
I feel like Taylor's desire to bang on all cylinders is greedy, right? you can have a misfire now and then. Knock it off.
But there is a way to fix it. Blue Chew. And we'll come back to this. Yeah,
castration.
Fix your microplastic.
Get rid of that testicular plastic. Get that out of your body.
Yeah. So you don't think plastic in people's nuts or in their hearts or veins or skin or whatever is a big deal?
I mean, when you say it like that, it's like, oh no, but I don't know what that causes to happen. Like I don't know what the downside is. I'm not a doctor. I would say I wouldn't want anything in my body, but then, you got those little mites right on your eyelid and your eyelashes living right there. Those little arachnids moving around right next to your eyeball.
They're not bothering anybody.
Because you can't see them, just like the microplastics.
Not Kyle. Taylor, what would you want your water bottle to be made of?
Probably glass. Yeah, glass or...
Has durability problems.
Yeah, that's true. I have a metal one.
You wrap it in leather.
I like. But then you wrap have a skin.
They make those. Like you can get those. You get glass wrapped in leather to protect it.
I think that metal is. I mean, the only big water bottle I have is made of metal, and it's the same one you have, Kyle. Actually, I don't remember the brand. It was like the off-brand of the tumbler. Whatever that. There's like some brand. Stanley.
Yeah, it's like spend $60 on a Stanley or $12 on this thing. Who am I trying to impress? I'm not in high school.
I'm not in middle school.
I'll hold water.
Microplastics in water bottles create estrogen, which I think is the scientific term for cooties.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it'll make you gay.
I'm not I think there's lots of things cause this. I'm just not worried about any of that. I just don't care. If I get cancer, I get cancer. But what are you gonna do? Not
you
live
and I
your life?
Have cancer before. It's a bitch.
Multiple times.
Nothing.
I mean, I'm just not.
Dude, you guys can't bully, basal cell carcinoma, and because pancreatic's going to hear about it,
I'm just going to be in the tomb with all the other cancers I've beaten.
When you read about me evil Knieveling my bike off a ramp here in Atlanta, you'll know the pancreatic cancer was coming. I'm gonna do something cool.
Yeah, you'd have to do.
No, I really don't care about the microplastics though. They that's the new I don't know, call to arms buzzword. It feels like for the health conscious. I saw some college educated who should be at home with her family on a podcast the other day. She's like, and she was making the argument that birth rates were down because of testicular microplastics. And the guy was like, you don't think it's birth control? You don't think it's birth control and abortions?
Well, and economics is my thing that I would have picked.
Yeah,
well, we're talking about since the 70s.
It's been on the decline. Yeah. Probably birth control ties into my
personal theory. Taylor, why do you think birth rates are going down?
I think you're both right, but I think you can't undercut birth control being a huge part of it. Like
it's the number one factor,
and having doctors recommend that young girls get and stay on it.
I feel like birth control is tied into my economics and people deciding when to have kids. Birth control is part of that.
Oh well then.
I think people are like, hey, I don't want to have kids until I can afford a house. That's what I'm trying to say, but I haven't put it that eloquently. I don't want kids until I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. And that just delays people into their 30s nowadays.
If you take birth control and abortion away, like it was in 71, then the birth rate skyrockets. It's
and then we get the crime rates of the 80s, which is dope.
You literally do. That's it. You're exactly right. Then you get new Reagan, Donald Trump in there to pump the crack into the neighborhoods, and we lock them all up, and we're all good again. It's cyclical.
That's the cycle of life. Yeah, that's nature.
If Elton John could do that more eloquently, like the circle of life,
the circle of crime,
circle of crime.
Oh man, Elton John. I think he's my favorite gay. I love Elton John.
All right, he's all right for now. He is my favorite gay.
Every time I'm playing
Ian
Age of
McKellen.
Empires, I listen to
Ian McKellen.
Okay, I don't know if Ian beats out Elton John.
Gandalf can't be. Not only is he Gandalf, he's also Magneto. Which
he's number two.
About.
He's second top G.
He was a great Magneto.
Okay, I don't really care about Magneto.
I don't think either of these people can hold a candle to my gay, because my gay has an OnlyFans, Finster.
Do you see that little study that's been floating around on social media where it was like they tested, like it was only like 23, 25 guys or something, and all of them had microplastics in their testicles?
Big whoop.
Like all of them.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know how it impacts us fully yet, but it's just another
hadn't bothered me a bit.
Asbestos or lead poisoning. Or
is it bothering you, Woody? Your balls fine?
I really like my balls. I'm pretty
all good.
Fan.
All good. Yeah. Hanging low, baby. Swing low, sweet chariots. Let's go. The plastic in your balls, please. My balls can handle plastic. Let me know when there's lead in every stronger ball. It makes us more durable. Sure. I mean, freezing in here. It's 62 degrees in my house right now. Like I like it cold.
Why would you do that?
You'd like
because electricity is almost free in Atlanta. Apparently, I every month I get the power bill and I'm like, what? Can we do like 3 or 4 of these at a time or something? Like it's so little. It'll be dozens of dollars.
You've gotten like free water. You've Mr. Magoo'd your way into like free utilities in different ways. And in your head, you're like, it's just free. It comes out of the wall. Like, it's just, meanwhile, your neighbor's like losing hair. Like, oh my God.
$800. Turn that computer off, Johnny.
Sarah, do I hear a microwave ding? I better not hear it.
Put that water in the sunlight outside. Let it get warm.
Household now.
Yeah,
meanwhile, you're over there, like not even using your in-home sauna. It's just on.
I want to be ready.
Just red hot rocks.
Oh, that's the bathroom where I always leave hot water coming out. Just in case.
I have to wait.
Hot water always ready. Yeah, it's really cheap. I don't know if it's because we've got nuclear right by here. I don't know where Atlanta gets its electricity specifically, like what power source. We've got hydroelectric and nuclear in the state. So probably a
nuclear is like the most expensive.
We looked this up and it was difficult to argue with you, but I would imagine over time, without subsidies.
Well, we looked at this
nuclear
up,
just
but
makes so much more sense.
It was multifaceted because
isn't it also about the volume of energy that can be created and the reliability? You know, you've got that nuclear, you've got energy on tap 24 hours a day, regardless of wind, sun, weather, time of day, and all that stuff.
So the thing that we looked at when we discussed it, like probably a year ago now, the site that we were at was like a literal anti-nuclear site. And their entire presupposition was that, well, if you assume that solar is always in use and has 100% efficiency, and then you assume nuclear is, in use and has efficiency, then actually solar is cheaper. And it's like, okay, well, what are their actual efficiency numbers? And that's the problem with wind and solar, is that they're not that efficient. They can't always gather power. Whereas if you have a nuclear plant, that's creating power always. It's always creating power. Barring some fucking horrible thing, like it's making power all the time.
It seems like the way to go.
It's the future. That's what I can't believe
we agree that there's probably a combo that is the way to go. Like solar, for example, produces the most power at times when air conditioners run. It might be a nice way to add a little extra capacity on top of nuclear.
Sure, especially if you're. I feel like we need those batteries that Elon Musk has too, charged up full of energy.
I thought you were an oil man. The
oil should be powering our fucking vehicles and our aeroplanes and making all of our wonderful, like, plasticky, magical devices that we create. But I hope we're not burning oil to fuel cities. You know what I mean? Like, we're not turning electrical turbines with gasoline or diesel or something.
we do that with natural gas, right?
I don't know.
Do what?
That's how we power a lot of electricity, with natural gas and oil. And like, I think like Pennsylvania even uses a lot of coal. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how those.
China's all about coal. I've seen those graphs.
I guess they're all just boiling water, though, right? It's just,
as far as I know, yeah. And
so why not use the magic system that we figured out when brilliant minds were like, "Hey, look at this magic stick, boils water for basically ever." What do? Yeah. You just keep water around it for it to boil.
Pretty much.
But other than that, what do you do? Well, keep people from bombing it. And
there's some other ones that I like too that aren't always dug into. I'm stuck on this tidal stuff. So I'm influenced by the fact that I grew up on an island, and when the seawater raises, the water rushes around the island through the inlets fast. I'll make it up, like 12 miles an hour, something like that. And then it goes the other way. It does this all day, every day, with the predictability that the sunrise and sunset hold. It's moon based. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why don't we harness this traveling water the way we do rivers and dams and stuff like that?
You need some buoys. Well, you connect the cable to the seafloor, and you got your buoy. And then as it's lifted and dropped over and over, it can just be cranking out energy for us. But yeah, just a huge field of paddles that move back and forth. You would imagine would just be making
it so flows much energy. One direction for 6 hours, and then the other direction for 6 hours.
Yeah, they just turn it. Yeah, I don't know why there isn't.
I feel like that would take a lot of space in the water, and someone could probably be like, "Oh yeah, that fucks with all the dolphins." Or fucks with all the crabs or something like that. I don't know.
It's like there's somewhere though that we could, like make it like cut an inlet into the land and keep the fish out and still use the tidal forces.
Or build a
power plant. The inlet's 16 miles wide. We can't and not all of it's navigable. Some of it's kind of shallow. Yeah, like you can't devote one of these miles to.
Let's just put like 10 nuclear power plants in North Dakota, like right next to Canada. And pipe it all right back. Hot piping nuclear power. They're going to be handing it out on street corners. Get your nuclear power here.
The transmission distances is the problem with that. That's why that's why you can't build them all out in Wyoming or something where you wouldn't mind so much if they melted down a little bit.
Maybe one in the middle of New York. Just one.
The bad one.
No, a really good one. It's the safest. Everyone's talking about it.
The Trump brand one. The Trump brand one.
Yeah, the Trump brand nuclear power plant. I would like that.
It's the hottest reactor in the world.
Hottest reactor. I mean, nuclear power is just so much cooler than all the other powers that like the kid in me is like, do that one. Like do the one that's borderline like magic.
It seems like it's the one. It's the one where and they talk about nuclear waste. It's so little. It's so little that it creates.
You haven't considered how much less physical space it takes up than a giant field in the water or land.
I think the
nuclear power plant.
Yeah. They don't take up nearly as much space as like a wind farm or a solar field.
The capacity wind farm you would need. I think the wind farms are ugly. I really do.
They are.
And they put those in like populated areas. So I've driven through them before, and it's like
wind farms.
Yeah, Kansas has a bunch of them, and they are an eyesore.
I drove past them coming back from Chicago. There's some in maybe Southern Illinois or somewhere on the way back from Chicago. We drove through a wind farm.
I've driven through a bunch of wind farms, and I usually think of them as in very unpopulated areas. Farms. Well, it depends what populated is, right? If you got one farmer on 1,000 acres, is that populated? Like to me, it's not.
No.
And every time I drive past those, like half of them are like, all right, so there's enough wind to move that one, but not you or you or you or you. Like what the?
Yeah, I don't know why that happens. But I agree, it happens. It seems like always half are spinning.
Have you seen the video where there's two people on top of one of those, and it's spinning completely out of control and on fire? And they're hugging because they're about to die.
I saw a tornado hit one recently.
No, I did not see the one you're talking about. That sounds awful.
Yeah, it is awful.
Were they okay?
No, they died.
They were every bit as good as those Israel refugees or Palestinian refugees.
There was a Hamas soldier in that.
Yes, there was one of them was a Hamas soldier.
Well, we can't confirm he's not.
True.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are any good people over there, Taylor. I'll tell you what. I remember a guy a while back was saying there was good people on both sides, and he got shouted down. Now all of a sudden, good people on both sides over there. I don't know. I saw Nikki Haley signing a bomb.
She did, yeah.
Dude,
What did it say? Finish
That's
the
a
job
good-
or something? Do you remember what she wrote?
She's like, finish the job. You hate everybody.
Yeah.
What's your favorite politician?
Trump.
He's the guy who came up with finish the job before Nikki Haley did.
Yeah, but Trump's had like a history of like funny comments, entertaining.
You seen his hair? Come on.
He's got good hair. He's losing weight, maybe, or he's gaining weight. And
you see that quote from him where he's like, "People say I remind them of Elvis. People say it all the time. I look like Elvis."
Did he really?
Yeah.
See, Nikki Haley's never even tangentially approached something that funny in her life.
People say I look like Cher. And when I look in the mirror, I see Cher.
Is there a thing to be done here to copy these politicians' trades? Like, I know that you can mirror Pelosi's portfolio, but do you just get the information 6 months late and it's not good?
Probably.
I don't know. I've heard people talk about that online, but I never read into it as if they're like, is there a fund that is like mirroring Pelosi? Like, because I'd want to be on board.
Not for us.
She did lose money. I know, like not that long ago. There was a bad one. A year ago or something.
Her and Marjorie Taylor Greene is another one that's doing really well in the stock market.
Oh, well, she's so smart. I mean, you'd figure.
Too. Yeah.
I mean, it could be that's like that she's dumb and she has one area where she's like.
No. Or someone could be advising her. And actually, I'm told she's not as dumb as she sounds on camera. That behind it,
I don't
she's
believe
crazy
it.
like a fox, and this is all calculated.
I don't believe it. I can look in that woman's face and I can see it, that she's a moop. Did you see that interaction she had, Taylor, the other day with the black lady? She says something to the black lady like, "I think you misread that. Maybe your big fake eyelashes are getting in the way of your vision." And this is like on the floor, and the black lady.
There are rules against insulting each other.
Yeah, and so there's this big kerfuffle where like. The chair is trying to decide whether these remarks are blah, blah, blah. And he's reminding people you not to blah, blah, blah. And the black lady comes back with, okay, so I understand that, Chair, but would it be out of order if someone were to mention someone's bleach blonde, bad built butch body? And this guy goes, "Oh, what now? What now?" And you hear clap, clap, clap of a gavel somewhere, and people are going, "Oh shit!" and everybody's
fun. There should not be anti-bullying legislation for our elected officials. They should have to, get in the fucking dirt. Have you
do
seen
it the British way?
Yeah, the British. They'll be like, "I say that's an interesting financial policy." From an avowed pedophile. And they'll be like, "I say, wasn't your grandfather a Nazi collaborator? I'm just speaking openly here. Well, that is what we're doing, isn't it?" Like,
take off your wig, are you?
Yeah, she sells T-shirts that say "Bleach blonde, bad butch body." I messed it up, but yeah. Bleach blonde, bad built butch body. Yeah, there's T-shirts you can buy.
She trademarked that shit right away.
I like a little bit of alliteration. Or assonance.
It's a tongue twister. I was shocked she got it out so smoothly, and she did have some big old fake eyelashes.
She's a pretty good speaker.
Yeah, it's kind of what she does for a living, and but it was funny to see like the old white guys be like, what now?
they're like the white guys in the beginning of like late 90s rap videos with like, "Hey, hold on, what's going on here?"
literally that. Because you'd have to sit there for like 2 or 3 minutes explaining what just happened to one of these old men who run our country.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene acted like it didn't get to her. Then on Instagram, she's posting touched up bikini pics like 2 days later.
Nice.
Yeah.
All it takes to be good looking in that room is like, don't be old or fat. And you're like, could you imagine like the physical confidence you'd have hanging out with our federal elected officials?
As long as Obama doesn't show up.
You would be the belle of the ball. Everyone would be like, "Look at this guy. He's got visible abs. He's got nice shoulders."
I don't try to pump up my own tires, but amongst the other congressmen, I like me.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Ryan was a
35-year-old
Paul Ryan was
an aberration. He's pretty ripped, dude. I wonder if that guy that doesn't have any fucking legs is strong. He kind of looks like he works out. Mostly,
he had big arms. if I recall, right? Madison Cawthorn?
No, I don't think that's who Kyle's talking about.
You talking about the eye patch guy? I'm talking about
Dan Crenshaw. Madison Cawthorn is a wheelchair guy from North Carolina, and he's got voted out.
What a loser.
Was he jacked?
He was handsome, but not jacked.
Okay, who are you talking about then, Kyle?
I'm talking about the other day.
He had blades. Yeah, I'm sorry, Kyle.
Yeah, we talked about the Blade Runner the other day.
Yeah.
I
like the Blade Runner. I don't know what party he's in or anything about him, but I would
just stand next to John Fetterman as much as I could.
That dude's a fucking ogre. He's like 7 feet tall. You don't want to stand next to him.
I want
to be right next to Chris Christie. Right next to him.
In front of him.
I hang out with that's the only way I would join the Senate.
He's so sweaty.
Right next to Christie.
That's a man who never leaves the house without a sweat towel. Like he's always he's always got that towel boxers have around their neck.
Somehow he hoodwinked New Jersey multiple times. They're like, Governor Christie, what are we gonna do about the salted meat shortage? And he's like, I don't know, but it's a problem that's affecting us all. Hey, they're saying that all the crabs in the bay are being eaten. That's a problem that America's facing at this time.
What if Jersey's got a lot of Republican governors, like more than you'd guess for such a blue state? I think Christie, Whitman, and there's others. I'm lost.
He's been using
all fat
campaign funds to buy blue shell crap.
Yeah, we look at Chris Christie's investment portfolios, and it's like, Red Lobster, Little Debbie's. He's got his retirement in Entenmann's because he's fat.
He's a big boy, and he hasn't gotten any skinnier. I thought they were going to lock him up for a while. He had that whole Bridgegate thing. And he seems like he seems pretty corrupt.
If they lock Trump up, I want him to be like, I've been doing this a long time. I've been thinking a long time, and I'm actually a lady. I'm a woman. Put me in there with the ladies. Me and Stormy, we can share a cell. It won't be our first time, folks. And then he can get in.
Is the gag order on him over now? Like, can he say what he wants?
I don't know for sure.
Okay. You would hope so, since the trial's over.
The gag order was to stop him from intimidating jurors. It wasn't like he was that restricted. He can still talk about the case, the judge, the attorneys. It was just the juror stuff. He really wanted to attack the jurors. No, the jurors and the witnesses. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and he really wanted to attack the witnesses and sort of like, put his version of the truth out there in the public air, to smash everyone who was testifying against him. But I guess you can't talk about jurors or witnesses.
Is that allowed? Like, aren't you allowed to call into question witnesses who are
not on Twitter?
Well, his attorneys were allowed to cross-examine them, but he wanted to go in front of the cameras and say nasty things about the jury or the witnesses. But that puts them in danger when you're Trump doing it.
But they told him if he said those things, they'd put him in prison.
Yes.
Well, he did do it like 20 times, and he got found guilty of 11 counts of contempt, and he got 11 $1,000 fines.
That's so funny.
I read that. So the NBA had some kind of fine for you. They have a specification for the color on the sneakers. It's got to be like, I don't know, 60, 70% white, and the rest can only be this color or that color. There's a couple things they had. And if you broke that rule, it was like a $5,000 fine a game. And what are there, 84 games or something?
82.
Okay. So when Jordan came out with his first sneaker, they're like red and black and white maybe, but mostly red and black. And so they just paid $5,000 a game and made $50 million selling fucking sneakers.
I love that idea. Just prepay.
Yeah, it's like $450,000 or something like that of $5,000 fines. And then
well worth it.
So many, of course, yeah.
He's a billionaire. I'm pretty sure he might be a multi-billionaire.
Yeah. He
the only one. The only
LeBron
player
James is a billionaire.
Oh, LeBron James. Okay.
You got to wonder
how well
Shaq's got to be killing it, right?
Dude, he's never seen a product he won't advocate.
He's got those general. No, come on, you've heard him talk about he only advertises for products that he uses. He says.
No, it says the internet says upwards of $500 million. which is
Affordable
pretty
car
good.
insurance. Call the general now.
Call the general. You know, the only person I trust with my $30 million worth of cars is this little cartoon man who gives cut rate insurance to low income people.
I saw an argument between Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal that was pretty funny. And I forget what the details were about. But Charles says one thing and Shaq responds. And Charles is like, hey, you get the bass out of your voice when you're talking to me. And Shaq is like, my voice comes with bass. I'm like, yeah, all right, that tracks.
You know, now that I'm thinking about the general, Kyle, wasn't the tagline, come to the general and save some time?
1-800-GENERAL now.
Yeah, but I wouldn't pick an insurance company based on how much time I save.
It's literally
setting it up.
Our calls are shorter.
Yeah,
I think their whole thing is like bare minimum coverage, cheap, bare minimum coverage. I think that's their thing.
Insurance is a fool's errand. That's why you should get the general.
That's what I do on my motorcycle.
To get legal, Yeah, same. I
cover myself getting sued by a lot, but damage to my bike, the whole thing's worth like $5,000.
It's
gone.
There's no reason to get anything but liability.
That's what I do.
Yeah,
some places make you get more than liability.
I saw that video. I saw a video of a guy getting twisted in half at the torso a few months ago. That was that's pretty rough.
Wow, a motorcycle guy got killed horrifically.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I thought you were safe. The Trump trial finally ended today. Guilty on all counts. Although I'm sure there'll be an appeal and then another appeal, and then we'll go to the Supreme Court and we'll overturn it, and then he'll be president by then, and he'll just expunge all of it anyway, right?
When you heard about the Trump being a 34-time felon, did it make you feel like a beta, like a less of a felon?
Was it only 34?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought there were like 70 counts.
To get to that, it's like 89 or 91. You have to add all his trials together. This one was only 34 of them.
If you're trying to make it look like you're not weaponizing the criminal justice system, or at the very least, if you're trying to make it look like we're all not conspiring to pile on at once right before an election, they have failed. They have failed.
The other thing that's working against Trump is he's guilty, right? We have his signature along with Cohen's and Weisenberg's on the payment schedules. We have his audio recording where he's like, yeah, we're going to pay off this whore I slept with. I'm paraphrasing. Can we push it till after the election where it won't matter anymore? No, I'm not trying to influence the election. This is all about Melania's feelings, but can we stiff her? And then if she comes free, we don't give a fuck. He's guilty on all 34 counts, and that's working against him in these things. The other trials, he was guilty too. His thing about lying about the size of the properties, space, the comps.
Again, the timing. It's after 70 years of this man probably doing the same shit. Oh, it's real important that we have 3, 4, 5 trials this year while he's campaigning and leading in the presidential election.
The timing argument doesn't hold up to me anymore because he's been delayed. We tried to do this shit years ago. Like I've been hearing, the timing is pretty suspicious for like 27 months now or something wild like that. He picked the timing. He chose to push it off to the year of the election.
He chose to be in court and all that, like now
by delay. Like he could have had these trials a long time ago, but he files frivolous motions. He tries to ask things to get delayed, and he's the one pushing all this. But all of it, his objective was to make it after the election, but this one didn't get that far.
Yeah, all of this has happened in like the lead up after him announcing I'm running again, and that's what Kyle means by like.
So that's actually factually incorrect. Suspicious. They were doing this before he let up. He announced extra early, hoping that this would get the trials to not happen, but they already started.
Yeah, it still looks suspicious.
If you look at it through a lens like that, then you'll find suspicion, but it's been happening for years now. This shit moves slowly, and it moves double slowly when you try to delay it, which Trump has indisputably tried to delay it as much as he can.
To me, and seemingly Kyle, I won't speak for him, it seems like weaponizing the judicial system to punish a presidential political opponent leading up to an election and throwing everything in the kitchen sink at him to try and get something. who knows if this is going to increase or decrease his popularity. No one who was going to vote for him before isn't now not going to vote for him. I also don't know if this is going to influence people who weren't going to vote for him before to vote for him. Like,
well, I know one person who can't vote for him anymore.
You're wrong. He can still vote.
Can he? How does that work?
Because in Florida, where he's from, they defer to the place where the felony happened, and in New York, they let felons vote. Oh. So he'll be able to vote in Florida because New York lets felons.
Of course, they do.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that felons let you. You need to move to New York.
Fucking Neapolitan cocksuckers, bunch of fucking bigwig intellectuals up there.
Yeah.
Poor Donald. Poor Donald. I hope he's okay tonight. I hope he's with his loved ones and his family.
I bet he's having a bad night.
Son.
I bet it looks like a Coca-Cola commercial from the 1930s. They're all gathered around the fire. He's sitting in his big armchair. Little children are, gathered around on the floor by his feet. Little Donald Jr. and Eric and Tiffany and what's the hot one called?
Ivanka. I always mix it up.
Ivanka? It's probably with a K. The hot one, yes. Oh, yeah. Jared Kushner's over there on the phone with Israel.
Fuck, perfect opportunity. When you said the hot one, I should have said Eric. Like, the ugly
the actual hot one's Barron.
I can imagine Trump being like, he's like, this is a terrible time. I need my family around. Eric, just the other room. Yeah, it's fine.
It's the daughter that we can't even name, unless one of you can name. Who's the ugly daughter?
Tiffany.
Oh, Kyle can't. Yeah, you're right. It is Tiffany.
I don't think
she's the one who I think ugly. Is like.
She's just not Ivanka.
You know what? She might even be pretty. I'm looking at her from her awkward stage 8 years ago.
Yeah, it's fun. I saw Trump talking about her looks, and he's like, she's got great legs. We don't know if she's gonna have these or not, but she's a good-looking little girl. She's like 8 or some shit.
Is this Ivanka we're talking about?
No, it's Tiffany. It's Tiffany. Okay. This is like a he loves doing media, so it was probably like Inside Edition, one of those rag TV shows from like however long that would have been, 15 years ago or some shit.
I remember this.
I saw that one of the Apprentice producers, whose NDA is apparently up, claims that they've got Trump on tape saying the N-word. They always say that. I'm waiting to hear it so that
I need to see the tape.
Yeah,
because we heard that 8 years ago and a little bit 4 years ago. Now
it's coming right after the
now that golden oldie is coming back again. So what he said was this: they were talking about who was going to win the Apprentice, and it's something very close to like. But do you really think America is going to buy it? Do you think they think that a ninja can win? And that's how close did I come? You probably saw it.
Pretty close. He was like, "You think anybody's going to buy that? A ninja winning? Come on." it was something on those lines.
Yeah.
I bet like when you hear it, like black people are like, that's cool. He meant it the other way.
You think that?
Yeah.
You think
black people know when black people hear you say the N-word, they can tell if there's hate in your heart.
Yeah.
They can tell.
No. Black people do not like Donald Trump.
After you to give you pats on the back. I assume that's what they were sprinting for me for.
I spend all my time on Facebook now, and I get to see all the real photos of Donald Trump. I saw him at a barbecue with a bunch of black guys. Everyone's so happy. Yes. So happy they grew extra fingers and stuff. Like everyone's having a great fucking time. They got squiggly eyes. They're eating square meats.
Dude, it's so funny seeing the AI pictures that like so many boomers and like politicians fall for. Like it'll be like a real like congressperson from New Jersey, and they'll be like, "Look, it's Hunter Biden partying in Ukraine," and it's like you don't even have to look at the hands. Like there's like women with multiple arms like that don't make sense coming out from behind other people.
When I was in college, actual boomers, not me who's called a boomer, but like actual boomers were like, you cannot use the internet as a source on your papers. You know, the internet is unreliable. None of that stuff is good, etc. Now those same fucking boomers believe people with 9 fingers are supporting their favorite political candidates.
Yeah. Dude, do you remember, like, maybe, Kyle, you're at the same age-ish. Like, do you remember being told, like, don't even buy stuff on the internet? Don't even use a credit card online to purchase things because it'll get stolen by, like, a Chinese hacker. And then within like a decade, all those same like literal boomers are like, yeah, well, a guy with an Indian accent named Scott Stevenson called me and told me my Amazon account had a problem.
Oh my God.
So I gave him the title to my home.
It's so frustrating to deal with that. I know boomers who've struggled with it. Like girlfriends, grandparents and shit. Like I knew this one lady. I think the scam was this. They called her on the phone pretending to be her grandson. And then like pretending to be her grandson's lawyer because he's in jail.
Yeah, he talked about
$10,000 to get him out or something. And they literally drove to her house and told her to put the money in the mailbox for the lawyer. And she put $10,000 cash in her mailbox, and a dude drove by and took it and left. And she's like, "Do you think you could track him down?" And it's like, no, not if we sick the dog, got the dogs out, the hounds, fucking Sherlock Holmes, the A-Team, and Captain America could not find that man who drove by your house earlier and took your money. Like it was just gone.
You got to feel bad for him a bit. It's a different world. But then I also think about other boomers, and it's like no one, like my grandparents would never got by that scam, you know? Like, so then I'll be like, well, I guess maybe it's just like really dumb boomers we're falling.
Well, I guess you're going to have to stay in jail. Sorry, Taylor. Like, no. Every man's got to pull his own weight in this world.
What's that, Taylor? You're in a Honduran prison? Well, it's time. You got to serve your time.
Do you remember your Spanish?
No. Not at all.
When we cared for my mother-in-law on her last days, she stayed with us when she had cancer, and like her last year or two, and she wanted to give to every charity that asked for money from her, like it was a bill. Like, oh, it says here that, like, I don't know, American Health Fund needs $300. All right, where's my checkbook? And it's like, no, that's not a bill. But I felt like, am I operating with a pure motive? Would she have done this 3 years ago, back when she was, more peak mental fitness? Or am I just like protecting the inheritance by making her less charitable?
No, you were doing the right thing, protecting her from predatory mail, 100%.
So I think making her less charitable is fine as well, because like she's dying. And like just look, if the goal is for her to feel good about doing a charitable thing and sort of score some points for the man upstairs, maybe even a little like I'm being good. Like just let her think you're being good and pocket the money, right? Like just be like, how there's a lot of charities out there that only take cash.
Yeah. Like,
but I'll run it over to them.
That's what I should have done.
St. Peter would be up there looking at her motives. I don't think he would get up there and be like, actually, we looked at the financial data, ma'am, and you're going to be spending a little more time in purgatory. And
you're saving her.
You'll never get your wings, because that's how heaven works.
No one does, as we've gone through before.
I feel like you haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life.
I have seen it.
Correct.
The documentary on how angels get their wings.
Is that the boy? I've got this awful voice. Apparently, like it's that guy.
Oh, is that where that old timey voice comes from? Where he just kind of sounds like this and it warbles a little bit, doesn't it?
That's it.
Is that a variation of the transatlantic accent?
No,
Maybe.
That was just how Jimmy Stewart sounded, I think.
Okay.
Isn't that his name?
Oh, people don't realize that I'm always having a series of strokes. All these damn actors, and they smell like toast.
Well, anyway, on the Trump thing, just to put a period on the end of that sentence, there's 2 dates in June. One is when he has to appeal, and one is when the prosecutor replies to his appeal request or something like that. And then in July is sentencing, which I'm seeing people predict probation. So that's how I think it goes.
Until they do a new round of polls. How often is that? Like every month they do?
There's new polls every day, but like a better question would be, how long until the current polls adequately incorporate this news? And I would say 10 days, 14 days.
Okay, that'll be interesting to see how it impacts.
I don't think it'll matter.
You think it'll stay about the same?
I think that shit going on overseas is going to be more impactful than Trump being found guilty for something that the average person doesn't even understand. I don't think anybody cares. I think that most of the people are going to just see it and go, still going after him, huh? Or good, get him. What's it for again? Who cares? Get him.
I think you're onto something for a slightly different reason. Like America's so divided and set in their position. You know, when Ross Perot ran and got 24%, something like that, people were more open. Like the swing vote was a third of the voting base. Now it feels like the people who are deciding which direction they go every election, I'm gonna make it up, but it's like 5%, not 35%. So how much of that 5 switches? Heck if I know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think Trump is such a polarizing candidate. It's a little bit different. I think he had a more moderate conservative. I'm struggling to name one right now. Maybe Paul Ryan. I don't know Paul Ryan's politics, but maybe just good-looking white man, and he's more soft-spoken, and he isn't so hard-edged, and he doesn't have any negatives. Like that guy's can probably pull a lot more from the left or the center, but he certainly wouldn't have that die-hard, flag-waving, hardcore fan base.
No one would be turning out for huge rallies for Paul Ryan.
Or turning out to vote. Like, I feel like Trump has inspired what was traditionally an unreliable voter base. Like, you know, you can picture the overweight guy with the goatee, the red hat, and the mirrored oil-stained sunglasses, and the anger. That guy didn't go to the polls very frequently prior to Trump. Now that guy is passionate about voting.
He was fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, he can't afford his new bass boat because Biden's giving all of his money to Russia.
That's
it's true.
Fair. It's true. He just always giving Russia money.
He's always giving it to those Eastern Europeans. They're all they're all Greek to me.
They're all Russians to me. You know where that word comes from, right? Slav.
No.
Slave. They were one.
So you get the cart before the horse, right?
Now, all those people.
Doesn't slave come from Slav?
Ooh, probably.
I don't really question Taylor's word stuff.
Yeah. For the next time,
what an entomology on Slav versus slave. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah. Let's have a long discussion.
Dirty Slavic people. I saw that. You
can't say that now. We with our awesome Polish guy in our
he didn't look Slavic though.
He's Slavic.
That dude was clearly Germanic ancestry. Did you see his proud brow? Come on.
Did you see his proud brow? I guess so. Yeah. And he looked fit the way I imagined a Polish. I
renamed him. He had a ridiculous name.
I picture Polish people, French people, and Italian people not being fat, whereas I picture like the United Kingdom probably being the fat of Europe, which still makes them like marathon runners compared to us.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I wouldn't be surprised if the UK is fatter than us. There's
no way. There's no way.
We're not as fat as we used to be. We're getting all these spry brown people flooding in. I mean,
from Mexico?
Joining. Yeah.
Mexico's the
you have to understand, Taylor.
No, that's the Biden take on it, Woody, from Mexico.
Yeah,
well,
Taylor,
come across
the Mexicans we're getting have just walked 1,000 miles. They're thin and they're fit.
They're not sending their thinnest. They're sending big fat retards.
they're sending fucking black people from coastal regions who are fucking spry. Whenever they go to the border and they start interviewing the actual migrants and seeing where they're from, it's so rarely Mexico. The Mexicans are already here. All the Mexicans that wanted to come came already. It's places way further south, or just Europe, Africa, or the Middle East.
Actually, that's a good point. I'm looking at this graph here, Global Obesity Observatory, and Africa is thin.
Can you make it bigger, Zach, please?
Actually, as with all these graphs, Africa just has nobody collecting the data, so that's probably what it actually is.
I love that.
Dude,
we don't even.
I would believe anything you told me. If you said they were all like giant fat people built like Buddha sitting on thrones, I'd be like, yes, that ties in with my expectation. If you told me they were rail thin, starving with bugs on their eyeballs, I'd be like, yeah, I've seen that too.
I've seen that. I've seen the sad videos that somehow would just inexplicably make it in between two weird shows on Adult Swim. It's like, wait, what's this doing going on? What's going on here? Okay, so we're not actually number one, but there's a caveat here. It's because like the top 9 are all tiny little Samoan nations. Like it's all the Samoas. So if we pull them out of the count, the United States is 10, and then Qatar.
But what are we ranking?
This is
BMI.
Percent obese by country, and it is the Global Obesity Observatory. and they're very easy to observe. Let's see. There's
observatory.
The observatory. Just one weirdo.
It's just assholes with a megaphone yelling at people.
And whale watchers rolls off the tongue so much better.
You know, I don't know if this is reliable because it goes against some of my preconceived notions. And so Croatia's fat? Say it ain't so. I figured they'd be fit. Poland, they're fatter than Canada. Libya is fatter than the United Kingdom. Yeah, they need to. I don't know who's funding this. Let's see who's at the
George
bottom.
Soros, no doubt.
This is funded undoubtedly by big Ethiopia because they're down there at 200 with purportedly 1.1% of their country being fat. Which
I mean, that makes sense. They're very hungry there.
Vietnam, very thin country. I buy that. India, only 5% of them are big fat people.
Ethiopia holding it down as the skinniest country. Who saw that coming?
I didn't. I figured it'd be somewhere in that corner.
You would think Mogadishu, honestly, because they have like famines there.
Yeah. Well, that's just Mogadishu is just the capital of Somalia, right?
Oh, it's got to be the Palestinians. They're the skinniest people in the world. I saw a kid today that had starved to death in Palestine, and he was so thin, Taylor.
Dude, like Twitter is just like, hey, we noticed that you've been liking hockey highlights. Here's a dead child. It's like, oh, this is a lot of dead kids for
that kid shouldn't have voted for Hamas. You get what you know. This is what he had coming for him.
Well, I mean, yeah, a little bit. You know, like it's not about getting him; it's about winning the war. Though I'm full on board with just winning the war. I don't want to. That's the United States has done this pussyfooting around for my entire lifetime with these little wars we got in, and we didn't win any of them really. And Israel's like gonna win a war. By the time this is over, the question will be: do you think Israel won the war? Oh yeah, like no one questions that.
Usually in a war, there's two armies.
Sometimes, I mean, they're still killing the army, man. And when they blew up that tent the other day, there was two leaders of Hamas in the
sometimes tent. 2, even upwards of 5% of the deaths are military people.
on those charitable.
That's high. I mean, it depends how you calculate military people. When we bombed Tokyo, it was like, there's workshops sort of mixed in with all the people. You know, they didn't have that centralized.
Is the shining example of America being assholes. It's not the benchmark to hold people to.
Being assholes?
You don't think so? Oh, wait.
No.
Tokyo, I was really going for Hiroshima when I said that. But
why do you say that? Because Tokyo. So there were more people killed in the Tokyo bombing raids than in Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
They
burned them alive.
You talk about indiscriminately killing anyone who's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Hiroshima is a good example.
Yeah, but what they did in Tokyo is worse than indiscriminately. They planned for weeks, waiting on the weather patterns to be just right to create a firestorm. And they dropped the incendiaries in such a way to create a giant firestorm and burn a huge percentage of Tokyo. Yeah. What did they do? They took something out of the bombers so they could add more bombs. It's like, we could add 800 more pounds of napalm if you do this.
I'm aware of your argument, and I acknowledge the strength of it. And intellectually, I'll even concede. But something emotionally about dropping a nuclear bomb on a city feels just an extra layer of indiscriminate for me. Again, emotionally.
The calculations were we were going to lose 1 million U.S. servicemen on the invasion of the main Japanese island. And the Russians were coming from the north as well eventually. So if we didn't end that war, then you were going to end up with South Japan and North Japan. And North Japan was going to be communist. That's what would really happen, and you'd lost 1 million Americans. So I always celebrate when I see that. There's this cartoon where they show the kids like eyeballs turning into liquid and slow motion and stuff, and I'm like,
we all celebrate that. Yeah,
you should have surrendered.
What cartoons are you watching?
It's this Japanese cartoon about the nuclear bombings.
Oh, it's okay. I was
more of an anime.
Like, man, America
normal cartoons, Taylor.
Yeah, America was going hard in the paint with their propaganda. If that's the cartoons they were making at the time,
like their military industrial base was intermixed with. It's not like they had this big factory over here and like, oh yeah, that's the fucking Mitsubishi factory. That's where all the bombers come from, and it's all on the outskirts of the city in its big square building. They had all these workshops like mixed into there weren't districts as much as everything was just sort of mixed together. So there would be a house here, and next to it there'd be a shop that was making wheels for airplanes, and then next to that there'd be another house, and then checker patterned everywhere. So they just burnt it all.
To your point, some stuff has a lot of purposes. I watched the airplane show. I can't remember the name of ever. The Way We Were. I don't know. Did he put it out shortly ago? Anyway, they were doing bombs, and they're going after ball bearing factories. And they said, you know what? The war runs on ball bearings. Yeah, so do bicycles and strollers. But I can still acknowledge how you'd call it a military target.
Dude, and the Japanese were going to fight.
The scariest thing to live next to if it's getting blown up. A ball bearing factory? Like, Lord, it's just a whole factory claymore. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that.
That is a problem.
Yeah.
And the Japanese were going to fight man.
Well, just another horrible day at the ball bearing factory. How could this get any worse? Oh no!
Do bombs really make that whistle sound? Is that a real thing?
We talked about this. They put whistles on the bombs to scare people.
Probably not like a nuclear bomb.
That's remember that.
I imagine that is.
Well,
the whistlers being for small.
That one blew up at altitude anyway, so they wouldn't have heard it coming in.
Did Japan hold a grudge for that long at all? I bet they did, but like I feel like they got Tokyo firebombed and they took like 3 days off, and they're like, "Well, let's rebuild."
They got right to rebuilding. It's crazy.
Then America came in with a plan on how to rebuild their economy, and they're like, "Yeah, we trust you. You're pretty good at economics."
They're like, "Oh,
followed it.
You guys are the ones with the bombs. You just
they kind of followed it. They tried to. They almost went communist. I think in the '60s there was a big movement, and that's when you've got that. You've probably seen the video, but maybe not known the whole context of when there's a Japanese man speaking on stage, and some dude runs at him with a. I don't know what the word. It's called like a wazakishi or something. It's the short sword that they carry. You know, the samurai carry two swords. The little one. He runs on stage with the little one and kills the fucking communist speaker on stage live on Japanese television. Everybody was watching, and that kind of put an end to the Japanese Communist Party.
It's like an iconic picture. The commie politician is like, "Ooh, don't stab me." Ooh. And then
the other guy's like, "I'm gonna stab you."
Well, I came here for one purpose. It was to stab your pinko ass.
Pretty much. So no, I'm okay with whatever Israel's got to do to win the job and win the war. It's what they need to do.
Tents with families.
That's where the bad guys are. We bomb tents, we bomb caves, we bomb goat herders. We send $1 trillion battle groups.
Worse than the wedding we bombed, and I've heard you guys both disapprove of that repeatedly.
This isn't worse than that. This is different than that, big time. The wedding the wedding, it was like, we think there's a terrorist.
They like tripled up the number of innocent deaths.
Yeah,
compared to that wedding.
I don't see how you can dislike the wedding part and not see it's pretty
parallel,
similar here.
Oh, I don't see it parallel. There's a war zone over there. We were like, hey, there's a wedding
war
tomorrow.
Zone. This was the place where
all of it's a war zone.
The resettled people had to put up camps because they're homeless now.
Yeah.
Well, why would their military generals be there in that camp? They shouldn't be putting the people in that kind of danger. Don't they know we're going to blow them up?
Is that how you parse?
Are there military generals in that camp?
Which
military generals did they get?
They called them senior Hamas members.
This is what they were. Senior Hamas members. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, sure, yeah. The problem, planners.
All right, well, heck, if Israel said there were some senior Hamas leaders mixed into the refugee camp, then I'm sure it's true.
That's what they said last time they blew it up too. They never say, we missed. They're like, we were hoping there wouldn't be so many people in them tents.
A lot of war is PR, and especially on a global stage. And so, like any sort of bomb you drop, you have to. If there's
that's counterproductive, though. It shouldn't be that way. That's not what war is. I think we've forgotten what war is. I mean, I don't know what war is, but I've watched enough TV and read enough books to know what war was. The wars that got fought for all of human history, as long as we've been a thing. And you don't Nancy pants around, and civilians die, and women die, and children get blown up and eaten. Like, it's war. That's why you try to avoid war at all costs. Because when war happens, children get eaten. Like, we're going to burn you alive. We're coming for you with a machine that burns you alive. You really want to do it? Are you sure? You do. We're coming. And now you're burning alive. You're like, oh, they're burning alive. We've got to stop. Why? They'll just regroup. We'll have to burn more of them alive. Burn them alive. Get it over with. Just get it over with. It's a Band-Aid situation We shouldn't be building a $400 million dock that broke apart in 3 weeks or something like that.
It was a temporary dock. 3 weeks is what the plan was.
An unbelievably temporary dock.
It's so temporary before it was even finished. It wore out.
Did you see our estimates on how much of our aid was stolen?
No, is it huge?
It was foreign aid being pilfered and stolen? That can't be true.
Our estimate was 90% of it was stolen.
Wow.
Of the stuff they shipped along.
This is 330 to Palestine, I assume, not Israel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm wondering who stole it? Because when I imagine Palestine, the news just shows me it's just rubble and starving kids.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some dudes in there with guns and shit, like holding it down. There's hostages still there. There's an apparatus there. They shot rockets at Israel last week. Nobody cares. They shot a bunch of rockets into central Israel last week. I just think they should win the war. I'm tired of us funding the war, but I don't want to drag it on for 8 years, Nancy footing around or whatever you want to call it. Just do it. Do it.
I mean, they are doing
I don't have a better answer. That's my problem. You know what I want? I want peace. I want a 2-state solution where they all chillax and stop hurting each other.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been talking about that since long before I was born, and that was a long time ago. So my vision.
Hill Dog was talking about this the other day and made more sense than I've ever heard her make in her whole fucking life. Because trust me, she's on my side on this issue. She was like,
I believe you.
She was talking about when Clinton had like Yasser Arafat and everybody at the table, and she listed she was like, they got this much of their land back. Israel was going to give up this much of their land. It was going to be like ran by this, overlooked by that, security guaranteed, money from here, and she like lays out this incredible plan where it's like, the Palestinians won in the 90s and I never heard about it. She's like, and they said no. They refused. They refused. And
that was one of the crowning efforts of Bill Clinton. And I've talked many times before about how some leaders, president, corporation, whatever, are like the smartest guys in the room. They come up with all the answers and sort of are detail oriented, and they make the organization doesn't function well without them, but it functions well with them. And then other people who can be equally effective just delegate, put, all right, you're my guy for this. You're in charge of Middle East.
Administrators.
Bill Clinton was a doer, and dude, he would roll out the maps on the table and street by street decide which ones should go to who and how it should be managed. Bill Clinton was like a wonk involved in the details of that plan, and it just never got put into action.
Can you imagine if we had nothing to do with this Middle Eastern ethnic conflict? Can you just imagine?
Oh, but Taylor, those poor Israelis could never defend themselves. They're helpless. They haven't had this so devastating army in the area for 50 or more years.
Certainly not. They haven't been the only people with nukes for 2 generations.
They've been under the thumb of those rock throwers for 80 years now, trying to stop the oppression.
What was it? Was it called is it the 6 Days War or whatever? When like 5 Arab nations invaded them with tanks by land, and the Israelis defended themselves.
I think the 6 Day War was Egypt and Israel, right?
In addition to Egypt, though, there were like multiple Arab nations. It was the something Heights is where they had that great
Golan Heights.
There you go. Yeah, they had their the Israeli tanks were on. They had the high ground.
So to Kyle's point, primarily Egypt, Syria, and Jordan.
Okay.
3 powerhouses.
I mean, again,
I've heard of Egypt. No, I've heard of
Egypt. You know what? I've heard Egypt is in their heyday right now. Like, it certainly wasn't. Dude, that would suck to be born in a country and be like, I mean, we can look back and be like, America's like, we were at our peak, like right after World War II. Nobody could fucking touch us in anything. Like, imagine being Egyptian right now, and it'd be like, oh, don't come at me 7,000 years ago.
You don't even know.
Before the Romans with their newfangled technologies bullied us and all that, we were a big deal.